Oh, what is good? It is your boy. We back at it. Another episode of Yahmsayin. Michael Turner in the building. Wah, wah, wah. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What's good? First of all, appreciate everybody keeping buying the merch. I dropped a little promo this past week for the Road Warrior ones. Get those. Comfy as fuck. Dope as fuck. I appreciate all the good feedback too. A lot of people have been loving the designs and stuff like that. So get that shit. I wanted to get some shit that I would rock, and hopefully you will rock. So the Yahmsayin sweatpants, sweatsuit is available as well. So turnercomedy.com, go get that. And then any cities that you see me in, I'm in Baltimore. If you're listening to this right now, I'm in Baltimore right now. Go to that damn show if you know anybody in Baltimore. And then Honolulu, I know it's random, but hopefully we'll get some tourists out. But if you know anybody in Waikiki, holla at your boy. And then Jacksonville. So that'll be fun. Pittsburgh, we finally got a new venue in Pittsburgh, actually, so those tickets will be finally live soon. And then Kansas City at the end of the year, too. So also, if you're listening to this, you live some city that you think I should be performing, hit me up. Let me know. I'm trying to line up 2024, keep this momentum going. So, but yeah, here we are. We're back. We're back after another Bengals loss. We were on a nice little heater. We needed to be humbled. It is, the lost weeks are the worst. We've talked about this before. I feel lost. I feel like that Pablo Escobar meme from Narcos, just looking at the wall, especially after that loss, though. If you didn't see it, if you're not an avid Bengals fan like your boy, it was one of the worst ways to lose, only because we, in the middle of the fourth quarter, had lost the game. So your boy is emotionally checked out. There was a fourth down that we didn't convert, and we're down 2 scores, and it's like, you know what? We're done. And I'm watching this game with my girl who's, like, not as familiar with my emotional instability during games. We've watched some games before, but, like, this is probably one of the most volatile as far as, like, the potential of winning and losing and shit like that. It was fucking up and down. And so with, like, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Bengals are, like, pretty much out of the game, barring a miracle. And so I checked out emotionally. I also, like, started changing the channel. I went to a situation where I could see the screen still, but I was, like, watching other games. And then what the fuck do? They get an interception, and they fucking Michael Corleone me, Godfather 3. They pull me right back fucking in. That's the worst, because then they came all the way back just to get to a point where they should have won the game. Tyler Boyd dropped a fucking touchdown, and he never drops touchdowns. And I don't want to be angry at him because he's caught a lot of balls over the years, and he's been very consistent, one of the most consistent people on our team. But goddamn, that was a big drop. And he drops that, so we could have taken the lead, been up by 4 potentially, and instead we tie the game, and then we let up a last-second field goal for the Texans to beat us, the fucking Texans. It hurt. It sucks because I was literally okay with the loss, like 7 minutes to go at the game. And then to come all the way back and to get to a point where you should have actually stole the game and then get the game stolen from you. But, again, this is just being a Bengals fan sometimes. This is the type of shit we go through. It is infuriating. The last 3 years we've been 5-4 after 9 games. Or I shouldn't say, the last 3 years, including this year. And the 2 previous times that we did it, we one time went to the Super Bowl, and the next time we probably should have been in the Super Bowl if we could have put a drive together in Kansas City and went all the way to the AFC Championship. So, with that being said, I don't know. I feel like is this the team that I root for? That they just fucking do this to me every fucking year? I'd love if they didn't. Would love that. There's moments that they look so fucking good. There was 4 games that they looked pretty great. 4 games in a row that they had won. So I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to have a better perspective on things. Not only this, but in life. And so with this, I'm like, all right, they did win 4 games in a row. That's pretty neat. That's what we call a heater. They weren't going to win 13 in a row. They had to lose eventually. It's never the game that you think they're going to win, or It's never the game that you think they're going to lose that they lose, though. Like, of the games that we had lined up, the Texans were the one where I was like, we'll probably win that one. We'll probably get that W. And that's the NFL, though. It doesn't make any fucking sense. We're playing the Ravens on Thursday, and they lost to the Browns after being up by 14 points and then, like, with, like, 5 minutes left or some shit like that. Or, you know, I think it was like 7 minutes left, but still a lot. It was a lot of points to let up, especially if you're a Baltimore defense. So you just never know. It's week-to-week shit. The thing that frustrates me is when the Bengals lose, like, you go on social media and shit like that, and everybody's so negative about it. It's like we also won 4 in a row, and we ran into a pretty good team in Houston. And we played flat, and you can't win in the NFL if you play flat. And so there's so many positives from the last, like, 5 weeks. And then if they win this game on Thursday, which – I don't know if they will. There's a lot of injuries now. It looks like Trey Hendrickson out. Sam Hubbard's still out. So, like, I don't know if they're going to win, but, like, you know, the AFC is crazy right now. And everybody's like, oh, everybody's great. But everybody's good, I would say. I don't feel like anybody's great in the AFC. And there's a lot of football to be played. There's still, after this week, there's 7 games left. And, like, everybody's kind of neck and neck still. I'm not saying that I want them to lose in Baltimore at all. I want them to win every fucking game they play. But if they lose, it's not the end of the world either. This is a team that has had their back against the wall plenty of times over the last couple of years and locked in. And they still have, to me, the best quarterback in the NFL. Super biased, but I would rather have him after having watched him the last 5-6 weeks and having watched him the last 3 years. Burrow's my fucking guy. I'm sure you guys aren't shocked by that sentiment. But, like, we've got the guy that can do this thing. So trying to calm down, trying to still maintain a positive push, a PMA, a positive mental attitude. It's the only thing you can hold on to here. We got the rest of the Road Warrior Tour, so I'm going to be at this Baltimore game on Thursday night. I have to go to Baltimore. I'm filming this here on Tuesday, and then I'll be on a flight tonight. I'll take a red eye and get into Baltimore at like 7 a.m., and I'm excited for it. Even coming off a loss, I'm excited for the team to bounce back. We've got guys in the locker room that know what the fuck they did this past weekend. And we've got guys that have lost games before, whether it be last year when we lost to the Browns, I think it was, like 31-13. The year before, there was a loss that you're just like, what the fuck? They've had losses where you're like, what the fuck is that loss? And then the next week, they've completely locked in. So these guys are capable of doing that. In the past, they had better safety play. I'm looking at you, Nick Scott. But I also think it's time to get a guy like Battle in. Get these guys in. We got a backup safety that we drafted last year, 3rd round from Alabama. Let the boy cook. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I trust our guys to be able to lock in. I'm excited for Baltimore. I've never been to Baltimore. I've never physically I've physically been through there on a train. I know that much. I forget where I was coming from. I think it must have been D.C. to New York. I feel like I go through Baltimore, and I remember looking out the window and saying, okay. That checks out. Charm City, I've heard. I've actually heard you can have a good time there. I've found that in all East Coast cities. I've also found that in most cities in America. You can figure out how to have a good time. I've been to Indianapolis before. Had a pretty good fucking time. Walked away impressed with Indianapolis. Any city you can kind of get funky in if you have the right approach to it and get the right intel. So anybody that's been to Baltimore, hit me up. Let me know what I should be doing. I'm excited to do comedy in these cities that I haven't been in. Obviously, San Jose was the most previous one I did. I didn't. And look, I'm in my head. Sometimes I'm like, are a bunch of people going to come out? I've never done Baltimore before, so I'm trying to set my expectations kind of low and be surprised. But anybody that comes out to rock with me, just know I fucking love you and I appreciate you. And I'm trying to get better at that. I hope you guys can appreciate that this shit is fucking hard sometimes. And, like, you're so emotionally attached to, like, taking numbers in this shit and how the tour is going and stuff like that. And I need to appreciate any victory, and I'd try to do that. But man, sometimes you're just like, what the fuck? Nobody fucks with me. Am I not talented? You start questioning yourself. What is it called? Imposter syndrome. You think you're not good. I've been kind of going through that a little bit lately, and I don't know if it comes off in the episodes or whatever like that. I'm not going to apologize. I'm a human being. It's what it is. But I've been feeling a little bit better the last couple of days about things and trying to get the right attitude towards things. Cause man, I'll be lying to you if I told you this shit was easy. Um, it's funny because it's like I've said on previous episodes, but it's like, you know, all I wanted over the last couple of years was just to be busy. When the pandemic was happening and I didn't have anything going on, I just wanted to be busy. I didn't know what that looked like, but I just wanted to be busy. And now you're busy, and it's all on the line, and everything, it has stakes to it, it feels like. And it feels like wins and losses, and sometimes the wins don't even feel like wins, really. And so it's a grind for sure, but it's also like a choice to have the right perspective on the shit too. You know, let's say 20 tickets get sold. I can sit there and be like, man, I could have sold 80 more or whatever like that if it was a 100-person venue. Why didn't I sell 80 more? But it's like I could have sold 0 too, you know? And then the fact that there's 20 people in a city that I've never stepped foot in that come and rock with me is dope. You know, it's just that matter of perspective, and it's the building block for the next thing. And give those 20 people the experience that they're going to go tell 20 of their friends or whatever, right? And then next time you got more people. Unless they got, I don't think they got 20 friends, though. Who the fuck has 20 friends at this age? I hope they don't have 20 friends. You ever think about that? I think about that sometimes with when analyzing Jesus and how he died. You shouldn't have 12 friends is too many. Also, 12 dude friends seems like a lot. You should have a core 4, maybe 6. I just was in Arizona for my brother's birthday, and we couldn't wrangle up 8. Good for, and I thought that was great. You shouldn't have more than about 6 of these motherfuckers. And a couple of them were in from out of town, you know. But in any city, whether it be Bethlehem or Jerusalem, 12 homies, one of those dudes gonna stab you in the back. Shout out to Judas. So, you know, keep a core, keep it tight. But if you if you got 20 friends, tell all 20 of them that I'm that dude, for sure, and then it'll probably help more. It's just acquaintances. Let's call them acquaintances. Let's call them what it is. But yeah, it's a crazy thing, this grind that I've chosen to do, and yeah, I've been in just a funk lately. You know, just being honest with you guys, I've been kind of, it's funny, but it happens to me like every year at least once. It's a once or twice thing. I don't know if it's a seasonal thing. Sometimes it does happen at the end of years. Maybe it's because I'm aging. I don't know though, because I don't think like that. I'm not sitting here like dwelling on like, oh, my birthday's coming up. Actually, every year my birthday like sneaks up on me. I'm like, fuck, my birthday's coming up. It's Thanksgiving already. Like I'm not one of those people that looks at my age and I'm like, where am I at and all that type of stuff. I'm definitely always trying to excel and trying to put myself in a better position than the year before, but I don't really think like that. So I don't know if it's because it might be, again, it could be a seasonal thing with the weather changing. Maybe it happens to me like that, but it seems like it happens kind of as the year winds down. And you know, it's something that I always try to push through, but there's like a month or so, and sometimes more, where I'm just like, man, I am not funny. I don't feel funny. You know, sometimes you get in your head like, man, am I ever gonna like think of another joke or something like that? But I have found also, and I always hold on to this too, and luckily I have been able to gain enough perspective on things like this, and I'm at least self-aware enough within myself to know how I've battled through like these bouts before. And what happens typically on the other side of it is I'm as funny as I've ever been, right? And I feel like it's almost like I was just watching on TikTok. I was watching this dude fast forward filmed or or what did he do? Time lapsed his um tarantula or some big ass fucking spider. Looked like a huge ass tarantula. It was called a bird eater. Google that shit. But he was shedding. He was shedding out of his molt, I think they call it, or molting. This is what they call it with spiders, but also if like a snake or a lot of reptiles sometimes shed out of their skin. I do think that I go through that a lot, and I have gone through that in comedy specifically. And you kind of grow out of your previous self, and I'm sure you guys have experienced that in potentially just in life, but also maybe in your career or something like that. When you're at this point in your career where you're just like, man, I know I'm capable of more, so much so that I can't keep doing or continue to be in the same spot that I'm at. And I feel like I go through that a lot, a lot more over the last couple years, because I think things have been accelerating for me more and more, which is a great thing. It's an exciting thing. It can also be a wildly stressful thing. And like when the changes happen, it also comes with more pressure, more responsibilities, things like that. So you've got to wrap your mind around all those things at the same time. So that's the process of me kind of shedding the old and getting into the new. Because the thing is, when you get out of that old skin, or when this spider came out, that was some raw skin, is all I'm saying. When you shed that skin, what you have now is this layer of super raw. You're exposed, you're vulnerable, you feel more and shit like that. And that's something that happens too. And sometimes, maybe it isn't me actually looking forward and being stressed about the thing. Maybe it's the fact that the last couple of months I've been doing so much that have put me, maybe I've already shed the skin, and this is me getting kind of roughening up or getting this new layer up to par to where it needs to be. Maybe that's what it is. And the skin is already shed, because a couple months ago we started this tour, and it's really been something that has an endeavor that I've never experienced, but I'm super proud of. Have being halfway through it, and I'm super aware of the learning that can be done and all that type of stuff, and the growth that is in front of me and stuff. But it's definitely something that has put me in a position that, or like in a feeling that I haven't felt before. And so it's just wrapping around all those things. I think I'm fortunate to have comedy to be able to be something that consistently, through these like these growth periods, or these like bouts of having to take things so seriously and having a lot of pressure on you, I still get to get up on stage and just have that fun. Last night I got to get up at the Comedy Store, the world famous Comedy Store. I only did 3 minutes. Every Monday they do a thing called the potluck, and then they do it's an opportunity for comics to get up there, sometimes in front of the booker, sometimes not, but like get on the original room stage, which is infamously it's only infamous because it's one of the hardest rooms in comedy, is what they say. But a wildly famous stage, and you only do 3 minutes, but man, it's one of the dopest rooms, period. And I get to get up on the friends and family portion, because I'm a friend and family of some of the people that host it. So, things like that, like keep things upbeat. And those moments on stage are the things that you kind of go to. You go stage to stage for sure. And sometimes it's harder out here in LA because the stage time is so few and far between in comparison to New York, and honestly, in comparison to like almost any market. In LA, it's if you're not one of the big dogs, you don't get in a lot of stage time. So, maybe that's why it's harder out here to make it in comedy, because you got to really be between the ears with a lot of this shit and lock in. So that's kind of that's where my mind's been at lately. Sorry for getting too deep on y'all motherfuckers. Went straight from Bengals L's to how's Mikey doing? Let's check in. But everything's still it's all still in front of me, and it's very exciting, and I'm gonna continue to grow. And the next step is you got to minimize it. It's like what's right in front of you. It's Baltimore, and I'm pumped to go. I want to I like getting into cities and just chilling. I've heard that I think trout sandwiches is a thing that I need to try. I've been to DC. I feel like culinary wise, it's a little bit like that, but I'm sure DC is just a way bigger city, and Baltimore's, and also Baltimore probably hates being compared to DC. It's probably one of those little mini East Coast rivalries. They fucking hate it. I know from watching The Wire, they don't like DC. Or Annapolis. They don't like having to drive in there. That's just perspective that I gained from season 3 with Carcetti running for mayor. But yeah, and also I've watched The Wire. No lie, I say 7 times. I know 6, all the way through front to back. And so it's funny going to a city that is so attached to like something that you love. I love that's my number one show. You can have other shows that you think are the best. I think you're wrong. I just think it's like the best show. But also it's all a matter of perspective, right? It's like what you like. I'm sure you're not going to I get why you think The Sopranos is great. I don't get why you think Game of Thrones is great, because I think shows in their entirety should end well, or the ending does matter, and to not have an ending so underwhelming in the moment, and also something that I feel like nobody's ever like trying to defend it that much. That's bad, because Game of Thrones had a chance to be the one. They really fucked that one up. They Greg Norman to that one in the Masters. Real ones know. But yeah, so if I'm always in between like Mad Men, Sopranos, The Wire, Breaking Bad. Also, if you put that in the conversation, I'm not mad at you. But The Wire, man, is just it's just the realest show. It's just like it's a show about a city in America, Baltimore, but it's also just about America, right? It's about that time in America. It's post 9/11. You guys know I love post and pre 9/11 stuff. It deals with what was going on in this country so well, so real, and the dialogue is fucking amazing. It's some great acting. I love It's like a cop drama, but it's also the streets. Everybody's wrong. I love that. Like in this time where the anti-hero is a thing, every single character is super flawed and super not doing the right thing. There's nobody that's great. Like there's Carcetti I just referenced in season 3. He was supposed to be this mayor that was going to change things, and by season 5, what happened? He fell in line with everything that the other mayors had done in the past. Spoiler alert. It doesn't end that great for Tommy Carcetti. Well, it does end that great, but he turns into the thing that he claimed to be there to try to change, right? And he took the fast route, and he lied about some things, and all of a sudden he's running for governor. Fucking Carcetti, you were supposed to save us. You were the chosen one. But then my favorite perspective on that show is season 4 is the kids. The kids coming from if you're not familiar with the concept of the show, it's not really a concept, but it's what they did is they focused on 5 different things for 5 different seasons, but also all of the characters were pretty much the same. There was a core group of characters, whether it be the streets or the cops, but each season kind of focused on this different level of city stuff. One of them was public school system, which was the 4th season, and they had introduced this new batch of children that were like, I think they had to be 6th graders, so maybe 12 years old or something. And that was the season that I actually started like really, really watching it when it was actually live on television. And I was in college, I remember, and we were all watching it, and these kids were the dopest perspective on it because they were so pure, right? These kids are just kids. And by the end of it, they all got caught up, whether they were impacted by the streets catching up with them, drugs catching up with them, the foster system was an aspect of it for our boy Randy, and some of them fell into the streets, and some of them had to get out of the streets. Whether because one of them was Weebay's son, Namond. Who could forget Namond? And he was born into it, and he had to get out of it. It's a beautiful fucking show. I could talk about it for fucking years. I love it so much so that I've rewatched it 6 times. And a lot of people are like, how do you rewatch shows? What do you rewatch? Dude, every time I rewatch it, it's like you think you remember a show. Like, let's say your favorite show is Breaking Bad. I've rewatched Breaking Bad too. Because you know what? I don't remember anything. A fucking thing. Breaking Bad is 60 episodes or something like that. They're all the greats are about 60 episodes. I know The Wire is exactly 60 episodes. You think you remember everything that happened in 60 hours of television? I rewatch movies all the time because I don't fucking you know the beats of a lot of your favorite movies, but like you don't remember everything. You can find something new every time. A TV show, there's so many little things that I forget. Now, The Wire, I can watch. Having watched it 6 times, I know the main story arcs and shit like that. But there's whole scenes where you're like, they just hit you different, whether you're going through something in your life that connects with you more or whatever like that. Or there's a perspective that you thought that you understood, but now you see it through the lens of that. That's always great. Also, watching a show and knowing where the character ends, where their character arc ends or how they end, and watching him from the beginning is a fucking dope ass perspective. My favorite thing to do. This is the 3rd time I had watched Mad Men last year. I watched Mad Men for the 3rd time, and such a fucking good show. But I watched it, and I tried to focus on. It's a show that mainly focuses on Donald Draper, who's John Hamm, one of the great characters of all time. But another great character of all time is Peggy. And I tried to watch it more through the perspective of Peggy and how she grows and stuff. And it's not a completely different show, but it's a perspective that you can shift. And you're like, oh, that's interesting to see how that played. And I used to think that show was about how people. It's funny that I always thought. I guess I never thought about it how she was Donald Draper the whole time. She's the character that wanted to be like him more than anybody, and their relationship is a dope ass relationship. Whereas I remember watching it the first time, thinking how Pete Campbell wanted to be Don Draper, but he couldn't be, and I focused on that storyline more so than the Peggy storyline. That Peggy was just somebody that climbed up the ranks, but actually it was Peggy that was the G the whole time. She was the one. She was the chosen one. Either way, good fucking TV is great, and it makes you attached to cities. Like, dude, you think people don't pull up to Albuquerque just to go to that fucking house and throw pizza on it? It's a thing. People fucking do it. I wonder who. I don't think anybody owns that house. I hope they don't. I'm talking about the Breaking Bad house. But yeah, I wonder what the value of that home is. It's probably crazy, honestly. But yeah, that show's super famous, and it made Albuquerque a thing. Baltimore is, I don't know what has happened in Baltimore. I'm sure there's a lot of history there, really. All those East Coast cities have a lot of history. But to me, it's just fucking The Wire. I'm going to go try to find out where the towers were that fell down. You guys know I love towers that fell down. In this reference, it's not the Twin Towers. It's actually the project houses. I'm going to get a pit sandwich. I'm going to get whatever the meal is that Weebay got before he confessed to those murders. I'm going to get that. You know how good that sandwich has to be? That sandwich was so good, he confessed to 12 murders. I don't even think he did all of them. He got a pit sandwich, medium rare, extra horseradish, coleslaw. And he then told them he killed 12 people and went to prison for, I believe, life. I think he's in there forever. Shout out to Weebay. But trout sandwich. What's the other things that they ate? There's a lot of shit that that show definitely like dove into crab. I was gonna say crab cakes. I do fuck with crab cakes, but yeah, just going down to the water and eating crab. Remember fucking McNulty used to go. He was on that boat for all of season 2, I think, just fucking fishing most of the season. And he ended up finding a couple of dead bodies, turning it into a whole season of an investigation that led to the awareness of the Greek and how Sabaka and the Port Authority were actually connected to the drug trade in Baltimore. And really, it actually climbed the ranks so much so that you saw that the head motherfucker was actually a white dude. Whereas you thought the streets were the dudes that were really running it. No, it was the old Greek. And you know what he wasn't? Greek the whole time. If you haven't watched the show, I'm spoiling some things. Also, this doesn't spoil anything. Dive into the show. R.I.P. Frank Sabaka. He was the chosen one. He could have changed things. Somehow Horsehead lived. Maybe I'll go to a couple of bars. The one that McNulty and Bunk used to go to and holler at bitches. Or maybe that bar where they used to have the funerals for all the fallen, what they called? Cops. What do they call these guys? Policemen. Police. Certified police. I can't wait to go. Having that relationship with the Wire and going to Baltimore is going to be great. And then also, the Bengals versus the Ravens it's not a rivalry that everybody talks about, but real ones know. Anybody that's a Bengals or Ravens fan know what's up. Also, the Ravens try to talk big. They know what the fuck we do to them. We always beat them when we're not good and they're really good. We sneak a win in. We're never scared of them. I'm also actually I will say when they're really good and we're really bad, they've whooped our ass. There's some footage of what's his name, Lamar Jackson. We still see that every fucking NFL season where he did the spin move on a pretty depleted defense. We also don't like each other on there's like chippy stuff. I know Joe Burrow has talked about how he doesn't like Baltimore because they talk too much. I like that he has said that. There's some gamesmanship that has gone on with the coaching staff with the coaching staffs. Like we kind of ran up the score on them that one time when Burrow had 525 passing yards. I don't know if you remember that one. And they had a depleted secondary, but also we only did it because they did the same fucking thing to us when we had a fucked up defense the year before. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't act like you didn't do the same thing, you little weak ass bitches. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call y'all that, but it actually is it's a great rivalry. It's funny because some of the games are actually more blowouts than like close games. The last game was 27-24 though, and honestly, if Burrow doesn't throw that red zone pick, we're not 0-2 and freaking out. And then, but it can be grimy games. Like the playoffs last year was, I forget what the final was, 24-17, but it was literally probably a game that the Bengals should have lost. It looked like we at least would have had to put a drive together to tie the game, but it didn't go that way. We went in there, we punched that ball out, which is what we do. It doesn't make sense, but we always do it. I don't know how to tell you how or why it always makes, that shit goes down like that, but we get turnovers when we need them. And we run the ball back for 99 yards sometimes for a touchdown that'll solidify the game. That's what we do. I don't give a shit if you had a backup quarterback or not. Fuck y'all. So yeah, it's a good little rivalry. No love lost in the AFC North. And it's a huge swing game because the Ravens just lost to the Browns also, so they could have made up a bunch of ground. They would have been 8-2, I think, or something like that, and we would have been 5-4. But now they're 6-3, and we're 5-4. We win the game, boom, same record. So everything's right there in front of us for the Bengals, which is nice. It'd be dope to watch us win. We're 0-14 in primetime road games. I saw this week. What the fuck? That's brutal. We're due. And then I was looking at the list of them, and I was at like 3 of them. Jesus. I was at the Kansas City AFC Championship game. I was at the Denver Broncos Monday Night Football game, A.J. McCarron versus Brock Osweiler for the number 1 seed in 2015, I believe it was. Coldest game I've ever been to. Me and my brother went to that. -8 degrees. I believe I got tickets to that game. I might be mixing up games, but one time I got tickets to a Broncos game from a chick that gave me a blower on a desert night outside of my vehicle. It was like an Eagles song. Good girl. She was a giver. And just a special gal. It was one of the first times somebody ever slid into my DMs after a stand-up comedy show in Arizona. She was visiting from Colorado. She said something like, I was funny or you were my favorite with a kissy face. I said, let's go. That was the first DM slide that I turned into a blower. And I have turned a couple of DM slides into blowers since then. You learn from the one you kind of grow. It's a momentum builder. You kind of get the snowball rolling once you get that first guy. Not a guy, but you know what I'm saying. First, she was a chick. Also, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? A mouth's a mouth, and I don't know who you are to assume gender. I actually didn't ask her. But, yeah, I remember going up to, ended up being in Cave Creek, which is a town north of Phoenix, and getting a desert blowy. And a nice night on a dark desert highway. Cool wind in my hair. Which is a lyric from the Eagles' Hotel California. I think I'm not even bullshitting here. I think I just realized recently, within the last couple months, that that's what they're saying at the beginning of that song. On a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair. I'm not going to lie. I think I thought for most of my life, I never thought about it. Does that make sense? You know that people do this with lyrics. I never even looked at the lyrics for that because that makes so much sense on a dark desert highway. That song, that makes so much sense to the song, the context of that song. I think I used to think they were saying on a dock there's a highway. Because the song, if you know anything about the song, it's about like this dream. It's almost like a made-up thing or whatever. But now that I think about that sentence, that on the dock there's a highway. That's those are two different things that wouldn't really make sense. On the dock there's a lake on the dock. On the lake there's a dock. That would make sense. On the dock there's a highway. You never just peeled that one back, Mike. You never really thought, would there be a highway on a dock? No, there wouldn't be. And I never thought more about it ever in my life until quite recently when my brother, actually, it was a text. He texted the lyrics. Me, my brother, and my cousin have a text chain, and sometimes we're just talking about music. And he texted those, and I said, I guess that is what they're saying. Don Henley, that makes so much more sense. So, full circle there. On a dock, there's a highway. Shout out to the Eagles. Not the football team, the band. So, yeah, Bengals, lock in. Oh, and the other game, first of all, I only named two of the primetime games I was in. I got sidetracked by the desert blowy. A desert blower. My bad. Oh, also, that girl gave me another blower. The next time she came to town, to Phoenix, we stayed in touch and a little bit more in touch, if you know what I mean. And she came to town the week that the Bengals played the Seattle Seahawks in 2015. The game was a fourth quarter game. If anybody remembers, any real ones know, any Seahawks fans or Bengals fans know, it was a crazy game. The Seahawks were like perennial Super Bowl contenders at that point. They had won one already, I think, and then they were really good. The early Russell Wilson years. And the Bengals were kind of coming on the scene, and we were good with the Dalton team and stuff like that. And there was a crazy comeback in the fourth quarter, and we ended up winning the game on a late play, and it was great. And then it happened earlier in the day, and me and her, I remember she was in town, and it was that Sunday, and we went back to her. She was at a hotel or whatever. I went back to her spot, and you're just kind of. I think the TV was already on, and maybe we turned the TV on before we started hooking up. And it was her time of month. And again, I told you already, she was a giver, so Daddy's still getting a blower. And I'm sorry if anybody's children in the car right now while you're listening to this. I know I got a couple buddies. Shout out to my boy Herm Miller. Hopefully the kiddies aren't in here, but we're breaking it down. Breaking down blowers, a blower breakdown, which could be a new segment. I've gotten some very interesting blowers in my time. But so the Seahawks had lost to the Bengals in the fourth quarter. It was a huge game in the year. I remember being so hyped. It was one of the dopest comebacks that we had in that recent memory. A lot of momentum. I think the Bengals got to 5-2 at that point. It was mid-season. Huge game, right? And so we're at her hotel room, and we're starting to hook up, and the TV was on. The TV was on ESPN. And I'll never forget getting that blower. And while I'm getting my DS'd, you know what I mean? My dick sucked. You know what I'm saying? There's Tom Jackson and Berman are on ESPN Sunday Countdown breaking down the Bengals beating the Seahawks in the fourth quarter. And so they're they're hyping up the Bengals and stuff like that. And I was like, this is one of the best blowers I've ever gotten. Because it's I'm sitting here, one of my favorite things in the world, not to be too crude here, but it's getting my dick sucked. It's a good time. It's my favorite position on third base, and there's multiple things you can do on third base, but that's my favorite third base position. I call it the Pete Rose. It's my favorite third base. You slide in head first, and I always like the head first. You know what I mean? That's a fun play on words. I think it's a Frank Ocean lyric also. But I'm getting a blower, great blower too. One of those ones where they care about it. They're here to finish the job. This isn't like a starter blower. This is a closer blower. This isn't Jabba Chamberlain. This is Mariano Rivera. You know what I mean? And again, it's not Mariano Rivera blowing me. This is a nice, lovely woman, full consent, big consent guy. You guys know that about me. I'm getting a Mariano Rivera level closer, Hall of Fame blow J. Wow. I'm leaning over my head, and I'm watching the highlights of just a great Bengals comeback, and Tom Jackson and Chris Berman just hyping our boys. And I'm like, this is living. This is what I think McConaughey's talking about. Livin. You know what I mean? This is just a good time. So, shout out to that girl. Really just a sweet gal. And she ended up getting me tickets to the Denver Broncos game later that year. And I didn't even have to sit with her. I sat with my brother. Again, one of the better, just an angel. Just a godsend. Sometimes I think about I've gotten close friends have passed away in my life. I've had family members pass away in my life. Those are the moments where somebody comes in my life where it's like, this girl's giving me a couple of blow Jays and Bengals Broncos primetime tickets. You kidding me? Is it getting any better than this? This might, I should probably text her. But, and then so that was the second. I've been to 3 of the 0 for 14 primetime games, Bengals. I went to the Kansas City AFC Championship, the Broncos game, which I just referenced. Even though the Bengals lost, you guys can tell it was a good week for me. And then I also went to the worst of the 3, arguably. Actually, no. They're all horrible. Was a time we lost in Miami on Thursday Night Football or Sunday Night Football. And we lost to the Miami Dolphins in Miami on a walk-off safety in overtime. Cam Wakefield sacked Andy Dalton, and it was just pathetic. and it was Halloween, and I was in a Scooby-Doo costume. And I think I've talked about that on the pod before. And then we ended up getting a ride home, and handicapped person in their handicap van because we couldn't get out of the stadium any other way. There was like 9 of us in this thing, and the person that was handicapped in the back, we're all sitting with them. And I'll tell you what that person did that was handicapped sitting in that van. They pooped at some point in that drive. And so we're all back there with adult poop in this person's pants after having lost on a walk-off safety in Miami, and I'm in a fucking Scooby-Doo costume looking like a fucking dummy. So that might have been the worst just based on all the things that went into that whole day. If I had to rank the 3 that I've seen in person, all pretty brutal. The Broncos one was tough too because we lost the number 1 seed, and it was also a game we should have won, and they kicked a field goal late to win it. And then also the AFC Championship game last year in Kansas City. Who we kidding? That was the worst. We were going to go to the Super Bowl, and they fucking kicked a field goal, and I was sitting in the end zone, and I had to watch that ball go through the goalpost with all my homies, my close friends. And that was pretty fucking brutal, too. Miami was a hot game. The other 2 were freezing cold. So, they all just suck. This is, hey, just being a Bengals fan. But I've had, I'm just living from blowjob to blowjob. At this point, you don't think about the losses sometimes when you're getting your dick sucked, which is nice. So, that's where that is. But hey, I'm also due for, a victory in these fucking primetime games. The Bengals are due for a victory in these primetime games. You can't be 0-14 and not be due. Pretty sure you're due, boys. So, I'm excited. I think, I'm a nice enough person where I deserve nice things, and I hope the Bengals can win and beat the Ravens and continue this momentum and get the fucking ball rolling again. Go on another heater, boys. Go on another heater. Excuse me. I had to burp there. Otherwise, what did I do this week? We'll break down some things. I did watch a film. I watched The Killer, I believe it's called, or Killer, maybe just Killer. It's funny, there's Killer of the Flower Moon and The Killer is out. But it is David Fincher's most recent movie. Michael Fassbender is in it. I love both those people individually, Fassbender and Fincher. I don't think Fassbender's done a Fincher movie before. I might be wrong on that. But great collab. I love both of them. Their style, Fassbender's in a Fincher, anybody in a Fincher movie is pretty fucking great. But Fassbender definitely was somebody where I'm like, yeah, this can be good. And it's about a trained killer, or what is he, like a killer for hire? Professional killer, if you can believe it. Pretty good. It's interesting, though. I immediately watched it, and I'm always blown away by David Fincher because I think he shoots such a beautiful film. Like, if that makes sense. Like, the movies are just clean. They're just clean. It moves really well. It didn't get there for me fully, but it's definitely like here's the thing is like of the David Fincher movies, honestly, I might rank it last or second to last in Fincher's movies. But what is that even saying? Or I'm sure it is better than it's better than Alien 3. I'll give it that. That's Fincher's first big directorial, I think, debut, honestly. I'll give him that. This is better than that. Other than that, I mean, but what does that say? It's still a fucking amazing movie. Every Fincher movie is fucking amazing. Memento, 7. You kidding me? Like, what are we talking about? Gone Girl. What's the other one with Daniel Craig? Along with the Dragon Tattoo or something like that. You know, all those movies. He's one of my favorites. Social Network, you guys know where I stand on that. It's one of the best movies of the 2000s, if not the 2010s for sure, but of all the 2000s, one of my favorite movies. So, love Fincher. Did really like the movie. The soundtrack is on point. All that shit is great. It didn't really get there for me. There were some things that I didn't love. But also, it's one of those movies I'm going to probably rewatch in a couple months. And not probably, I definitely will. And I could see it as being something that'll grow on me, maybe on a rewatch. But Like even if it's dead last in Fincher's movies, it's a fucking one of the best movies you'll see this year. That's just how highly I think of David Fincher. I do love how it was written. It's different. It's a lot of inner dialogue with Fassbender's character. He doesn't really speak on um, screen a lot. It's all internal dialogue and stuff like that for the most part. Tilda Swinton, you're gonna get. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? So, some really good stuff worth checking out for sure. Hard vouch for that. Watch the movie. You might like it more than me, but I didn't. I think I always think so highly of Fincher that I was ready to like just be fall in love with a new Fincher movie. It didn't get there for me, but really good, and Fassbender's good too. So I hope that makes sense. Like I'm not knocking it. I guess I'm ranking it in my Fincher perspective. It wasn't one of his top movies, and that's the other interesting thing. I just did the Killers of the Flower Moon. I was talking to you guys about that. Probably, definitely not in the top 10 Scorsese movies for me, but it's a fucking beautiful movie. It's a Scorsese movie. You know what I mean? Like you're still getting all of these things with the camera stuff that he's doing and all the fucking the scenes that he creates, whether it be like the wedding scenes or the shots that he chooses to do. I mean, Scorsese's just cooking in that movie for sure, and the dialogue with um, adding humor to such a dark movie is fucking crazy, and he does that in every movie, and I love it. So like of the Scorsese movies, it's not one of my favorite Scorsese movies, but it's gonna be one of the best movies of this year, and this year it's an interesting year for movies. I think a lot of people are like, man, nothing's good come out. You got to dive a little deeper than that. I know there's some movies that I have missed. I want to watch Anatomy of a Fall still, but pretty good, pretty solid year for movies. I've enjoyed it. Mission Impossible came out this year, so you're never gonna see me complain too much. I fucking love that is all I really need. Um, but yeah, like this year you got a Christopher Nolan movie, a Scorsese movie, and a David Fincher movie. And I wouldn't say any of them are in those directors' top 5. Some people might say Oppenheimer is in Nolan's top 5. As I move away from that movie, I don't think about it a lot, if that makes sense. That's something that I think matters in movies where you how much it kind of encapsulates your mind a lot. I It was a great movie. I love Cillian Murphy. I'm actually watching Peaky Blinders a lot right now, and definitely love what he did. But like, you know, I don't know. I'm still putting like fucking Dunkirk and The Dark Knight Rises and shit like that are all above Oppenheimer for me. But of the films of the year, probably I wouldn't be shocked at all if it wins the Oscar and shit like that. But it's interesting. We got movies from Nolan, Fincher, and Scorsese all this year. They're not some of their best, but they're probably some of the best movies that we've gotten this year for sure. And that's great. I'm into that. I love that. If you gave me another year where you told me I'm going to get a Scorsese, Fincher, and a Nolan movie, let's fucking go. We should get one every year, even though Scorsese is probably going to die soon. That dude is old. But definitely check out The Killer. It's good. I watched it on TV. I don't know if it's in theaters. I actually think it would be worth watching in theaters because you can it's definitely a movie where it kind of takes you over. I did it in the dark. I got a decent room. Actually, we're sitting in my living room here if you're watching on YouTube. It's good. It's a decent setup. I think it's a 55-inch. It's not like crazy, but good. I got a sound bar, shit like that. So you're able to kind of dive in, which we did, but wouldn't be a bad movie to go see in theaters. Probably would enjoy it maybe more because you'll be able to get kind of sucked in, it's definitely a movie where you can get sucked into his perspective and what Fassbender's doing and stuff like that. I also use humor really well too. I liked that. So check that out. Be a good person. Do the damn thing. Other than that, yeah, just fucking keep supporting your boy. Go to turnercomedy.com. Get some merch if you haven't gotten the merch. That's one of the best ways to support me. Any money coming in is helpful at this point. It's winding down. Another net loss for me as the year winds down. But we're getting gains on a lot of other things too. We're getting a lot of good traction on some of the IG stuff and shit like that. So if you see some posts that you like, keep sharing it, commenting, all that shit. If you're watching this on YouTube right now and you haven't already, comment below, um, like it, subscribe to the channel, do all that good shit you should be doing. You like a clip, share it with your homies, send it off, let them know. Hopefully, I get some good Baltimore shit. If you're watching this and you think I should be asking some things to Baltimore people, holla at your boy. Cause I don't know, I don't want to get too hostile in there. I don't want to start any fights. It actually is all respect. I've always said this about the Baltimore Ravens too. If they weren't in our division, if they weren't in the AFC North, or even especially if they weren't in the AFC, I would probably root for the Ravens. Actually, I've always liked how they play football. I will say that. There's no. They also have had uh, some of the worst human beings ever on their team. They've had Ray Lewis as their middle linebacker. He's killed 2 people. They also had another Ray Rice, and he won't hesitate to hit a bitch, as we know, and it's well documented. So you know, for some people that look at the Bengals and say we've got some real bad characters on there, why don't you look in the mirror, Baltimore? But besides the murder at middle linebacker and the guy that hit his significant other in a elevator casino, good ball players for sure. Bulware comes to mind. You guys now have Roquan Smith, McAllister at DB. You guys have had some motherfuckers over the year. Ed Reed. So, Jonathan Ogden. You know, I remember. I can drop some names. But yeah, Baltimore. I'm excited to dive in. Excited to see a game in Baltimore on Thursday night. That's going to be rowdy. I'm sure you guys get rowdy over there. And if you're listening and you're in Baltimore before the show on Wednesday, come through. Come to the show. Again, after that, Honolulu, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Kansas City. If you got a city I should be coming into in 2024, holla at your boy. Let me know. I appreciate you guys always. Again, I'm trying to appreciate more, working on things. I appreciate you guys riding with me too through the waves of my life, the emotional stresses that I'm going through. But I'm gonna keep pushing, so don't worry too much about me. But I love y'all. I'll talk to you soon. And from my family to yours, Hoo Day. Fuck the Ravens. Let's go.